From the very beginning of my elementary education, as young as kindergarten, I was constantly being praised and appreciated by my teachers for being smart or above average intellectually. I was persistently being labeled as the smartest kid in my class and would often finish the work delegated to me by my teachers faster than everyone else, and would have to be given more work that the teachers believed that the rest of the class just wasn't capable of understanding. But now that I'm 17 years old and on the cusp of finishing high school, I've come to realize that I'm now just as average as the rest of my peers academically, and I'm no longer that bright, capable student I once was. I actually often feel unmotivated and dissatisfied with my schoolwork. This led me to think about where things started to change in my academic journey, and whether this was applied to all students, like me, that were once labeled as gifted or above average. Now, from an outside perspective, being called more intelligent than the rest of your classmates may seem amazing. Parents actually love the idea because it gives them a reason to be proud of their kid, and also to show off to other parents, of course. Like, oh, my kid's gifted and yours isn't, so obviously my kid's better than yours, right? But the reality is, it actually does way more harm than good. I'm Tanisha Phillip. I'm a former gifted student and a high school senior, and today I'm here to talk to you all about the negative effects of childhood academic pressure and gifted programs. Firstly, let's discuss the short-term effects. A gifted student is actually more likely to have unrealistically high expectations, and this can lead to them having distorted views on their grades and academic attainment. Students that are gifted actually hesitate to ask for help because they're so accustomed to being called gifted, and this label can lead to them hesitating to ask for help because they don't want to damage that reputation that they've gained from being called gifted. It also leads to them developing this unhealthy perfectionism. And this means that even one grade that isn't up to their personal standards can absolutely destroy their self-esteem. It actually also alienates them from their peers. I'm sure we've all seen kids getting bullied for being smart in TV shows, movies, or even our own schooling experiences. Studies have shown that gifted students are more likely to get bullied, and this can lead to serious psychological issues, such as depression and social anxiety. The sad reality is, the more gifted a child is, the more likely they are to face social difficulties and unhappiness. Additionally, it actually also impacts students that are deemed ordinary because they are accepted into this exclusive title just for smart kids. It can lead to them feeling inferior or maybe even insecure, and therefore lashing out and bullying these smart kids, which shows that it negatively impacts not only smart kids, but ordinary students as well. And now for the long-term effects, which is mainly the feeling of gifted kid burnout syndrome. How many of you here have heard of gifted kid burnout syndrome on TikTok or Instagram? Okay, a good few of you have heard of it. Now, although this was initially just a term coined by people on the internet, I can assure you it is very much a real and valid problem faced by a multitude of high school and college students. Now, for those of you that are unaware of this term, gifted kid burnout syndrome refers to the mental fatigue, physical exhaustion, and overall emotional detachment that comes with being a product of an accelerated academic program because of all the stress that they face. Some common symptoms of gifted kid burnout syndrome include a misanthropic feeling towards your entire schooling experience, a fatalistic attitude, a general negative subschema, and the lack of motivation to achieve academic attainment. Now, clearly, this sounds like a serious issue that should be investigated more, right? So many students don't have to suffer because of our flawed schooling system. Now, another long-term impact of being a product of an accelerated academic program is the imposter syndrome that comes with it. When a student can no longer generate the cognitive leap that they could once make due to their high intellectual prowess, they tend to come to the conclusion that their previous accomplishments were just false positives or flukes, and they're actually not deserving of any of that. Now, a problem that I battled a great deal with when I entered high school was the difficulty I faced whenever I tried to study on my own. And this was because I got so accustomed to not having to study when I was younger in primary school because of how easy school came to me. I also realized that I tend to quit hobbies that don't come to me at ease because that frustrates me and it doesn't give me that instant gratification that I have learned to seek. Moreover, teachers are actually also negatively impacted by gifted kid burnout syndrome, not just students. Teacher burnout is a very real side effect of being of gifted kid programs. Teachers have to divert all of their resources towards these highly intellectual students, and this can lead to them feeling underappreciated and unmotivated, and therefore frustrated with their occupation. Now, unfortunately, for most students like me that are facing the effects of childhood academic pressure, the damage is actually already done. But there are ways we can cope with the symptoms of gifted kid burnout syndrome. These coping mechanisms can be done with ease if the student has a strong adult support system through trusted teachers, parents, and counselors. Firstly, let's let go of the notion that perfection is the only way to go, and normalize these feelings of not being okay by validating the detour that our academic path has taken. Focusing on non-academic activities is so important because a lot of these can really aid your well-being. I'd like everyone listening to me today to know that if you don't feel as good as a student you once were, your feelings are completely valid. So let go of that notion that perfection is the only way to go, and remember that your self-worth is not dependent on your grades. Well, that's it for today. I'm Tanisha Phillip, and thank you for listening to my